So we're going to be discussing marriage, birthdays, and current events. Now, when the person suggested marriage, they didn't say, what about marriage? They just said marriage. And marriage is a very broad topic. So, I mean, there are lots of things we can discuss about marriage. So I thought, well, let's just talk about what it is and how it fits into with the Most High's scheme, not scheme, but his plan, I should say, for us. So that's what we'll discuss today. So, marriage. So we have a scripture here in Genesis 2:24. It says, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." So that is the essence of marriage. The two coming together, male and female. Let me say that again. Male and female coming together and becoming one flesh. You can't have a marriage if you don't have a male and a female. That's the way the Most High ordained it. And since that's his ordination, he gets to choose whether or not you get to be a male and a female. So that's the way he set it up. So we honor that and we honor him in that. Okay. So a man and a woman comes together and they become one flesh. And that is the whole idea of this marriage or this union, which is this institution that's been created by the Most High. So it's this institution created by the Most High, for the context of a family to come forth out of that union. It's essentially a covenant agreement between a man and a woman. I know we don't see it that way, but there's a shedding of blood, and with the shedding of blood, it's a sign that there's a covenant. So there's a covenant. There's a covenant between a man and a woman coming together, agreeing to love each other, to honor one another, and for the man to have certain responsibilities regarding the woman to provide a home for her and to care for her and to make sure that she's got some food for her belly and that she has a name and she has someone who is protecting her and providing for her and professing love for her. It is a covenant. It is a covenant, not a contract. Now, there is an aspect to a marriage that involves a contract, but it is a covenant. It's a contract first and then it becomes a covenant. I'm going to explain that in a minute. It's a contract first and then it becomes a covenant. Once there's the shedding of blood, it becomes a covenant. So, marriage is something that's been instituted by the Most High, for the purpose of bringing forth a family. Ultimately, He desires for a family, children, to be brought forth out of the union of that beginning as a contract, ending as a covenant. So that's His desire. And the man promising to protect and to provide and to serve the woman, she agrees to reverence, honor, and create a healthy environment for with which children can come forth, and so that the Most High's covenant could be established with the whole family, so that we can all, male and female and the children, keep the Most High's commandments. Davion says, "Is that one flesh? Is that one flesh?" Speaking of children, eventually children come from that union. From the union of male and female, children come forth from that union. Yes, yes, yes. So it's like producing fruit. It's like two seeds coming together and providing the perfect conditions for fruit to be produced. Okay. And that's, the Most High is all about his precious fruit. He's all about producing a fruit. So he loves it when the things that he creates produces after its own kind. Okay. So we have this loving environment with which the Most High desires to bring forth children who then grow up and keep his covenant, who honor him. He told Abraham, he said, "I chose you because I knew that you would teach your children about me, that you would teach your children to follow my laws, my commandments, and my statutes." So this presents a perfect picture for us, with which we understand how the Father was to bring forth salvation for us. Eve, when she was brought forth from Adam's side. The Creator took a rib from his side and formed it and shaped it into a woman. So the woman was taken out of man. She was there originally. In the original creation of man and woman, the Most High says, "Let us make man in our image, and let us make them male and female. Male and female created he them, male and female created he him." So Adam had female within him when he was created. And when it was time for the Most High to produce fruit, he brought the woman out of Adam through the side, from his side, okay? Took a rib and formed the woman. And so the woman and the man becoming one is natural. They were one. They were made two for the purpose of becoming one once again, okay? So, and that's a perfect picture of our relationship with Messiah. We were one with the Father, and then we were divided through sin, okay? And then through Mashiach, now we're becoming one again. The Most High is just so perfect in his demonstrations of things to us. So we come together, back together in him again, and become one with him, become one in the quote unquote Godhead through Messiah, who carries us in his flesh. And when he was hanging on that stake and he was pierced in his side and blood and water came out, it was a sign of the new covenant. It was the sign that once again, his bride, just like Adam's bride was birthed out of his side, we, the bride or the body of Messiah, was birthed out of his side. And the water and the blood signifying this new covenant that he was forming in his own body. And so we dwell in him, one with him. And because we are in him, he is transporting us into the kingdom in his body. Okay. So we're talking about marriage. We're talking about it being an institution. Just read what's on the screen and then you can get caught up real quick about what we're talking about. Marriage, instituted by the Most High to demonstrate his love for us, his desire to bring forth fruit through us, and his desire to bring salvation to us through the institution of marriage as we become one with our Messiah. So it's a marriage covenant, essentially is what it is. But like I was telling Sister Kathy, yes, Sister Lydia, the Most High always comes full circle. It is very beautiful. Oh my gosh. When you read the scriptures and you just start to see how much full circles there are in the Bible, it's just like in the scriptures, it just makes your mind just boggle. Anyway, so the first thing, it begins as a contract. That's what I said. It begins as a contract. And this is the contract. This is typically the way we did it when we had our culture and, had our homeland. So we would have a contract. We would have the male and the female enter into a contract with each other. So like I told Sister Kathy, it begins as a contract and then it ends as a covenant. And so it's an agreement. It's called a ketubah agreement. And it's a unilateral document that stipulates what conditions must be met by both sides. When the Most High gave the children of Israel the Torah and then told them, this is what I want you to do. And then the children of Israel said, we will do it. That was a ketubah agreement. So the Torah, the 10 Commandments, are part of our ketubah agreement with the Most High, as we agreed to him to be connected with him in a marriage covenant. Those are the stipulations that the Most High said. He said, okay, I agree to protect you. I agree to bless you. I agree to provide for you, but you have to do these things. Okay. Okay. So in the ketubah agreement, we have this stipulations, these agreements, like I agree to do this, you agree to do that. So in the 10 Commandments, we agreed with our mouth verbally, we said, we will do it. And the Most High said, okay, then I will bless you. I will make your name great, like I promised Abraham. I will make you the head and not the tail. I will give you blessings in your basket and blessing in your store. And so you read Deuteronomy 28, and these are all the things that the Most High promised to do for us. So you can see this perfect example of a marriage covenant, okay? And we know that marriage covenant was broken because we didn't keep our end of the bargain, because we were unfaithful to the marriage. By worshiping other deities, you're unfaithful. You're committing adultery on the Most High with another quote unquote deity. So you see, we broke the covenant almost right away, unfortunately. Okay, so this ketubah agreement is something that our people would enter into, where you agree, you have conditions, you come together and you say, okay, well, I want my son to marry your daughter, and I'm going to give your family 100 head of cattle, because I recognize that if your daughter is married to my son and comes and is joined to my family, we're going to gain her labor, but you're going to be losing her labor. So we're going to give you something to compensate for the fact that you're losing her labor, and it's called a bride price. So we're going to give you this bride price, and then we get your daughter. Okay. And she's to become a part of our family. So we have this contract that we agree. It's just a legal document. When Mary and Joseph were espoused, Mary, the mother of our Savior, they had this ketubah agreement signed, sealed. So, in essence, on paper, they were married, but they hadn't yet come together and formed the covenant part of the relationship yet with the shedding of blood. Okay. And so, with the shedding of blood, that seals the covenant part of the marriage. Okay, moving on. So, there's something that is also called a dowry. Okay. And a dowry, it differs from a bride price in that a dowry is whatever wealth or whatever inheritance a woman is given, and she brings that into her marriage and becomes a part of her husband's property, becomes a part of the something for the family to enjoy together. Okay. So this is the whole aspect of a ketubah agreement, a bride price, and a dowry. Okay. So a marriage typically takes place or would take place under a chuppah. It's kind of like what you set up when you celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles or Sukkot. So that's where it takes place. So I believe when Messiah returns and we tabernacle with him, it'll be us celebrating this marriage celebration. And when we finally unite with our Messiah and on this in this new covenant, and we agree finally to be faithful and to do the things that are pleasing the Most High sight, and we are saved and delivered unto the Most High and into the kingdom. Okay. So consummation of the marriage takes place the night of the wedding feast where the two become one. So typically in our history, there would be a week-long celebration to celebrate the marriage. Everyone from the community would come and they would celebrate the couple for a week, and they would just have a good time. There would be wine. Remember the wedding at Cana where Messiah turned the water into wine? That was the wedding feast they were having. It was a 7-day wedding feast. That's what they do. It's just a time of happiness where everyone in the community celebrates this new union, this new wedding, this new union of two souls becoming one. Okay. And so, though the Most High hates divorce, or he allowed for, I should say, divorce to enter into the category because of what Messiah said, because of the hardness of men's hearts. So then divorce entered. And so he allowed it. So if a man is displeased with his wife, he can put her away. Okay. And so then the Most High, making that allowance for a man, then said, okay, well, I'm displeased with my wife. And so the northern kingdom was cut off from the kingdom of Yashar'al, only to be regathered again in Messiah. Okay. So this scripture in Deuteronomy 24 talks about that. It says, when a man takes a wife and marries her, if he finds no favor in, if she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found some indecency in her, he writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand and sends her out of his house. And she departs out of his house. And if she goes and becomes another man's wife, and the latter man hates her and writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand and sends her out of his house, or if the latter man dies, who took her to be his wife, then the former husband, the first husband who sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife after she has been defiled, for that is an abomination before Yahuwah, and you shall not bring sin upon the land that Yahuwah, your Elohim, or your Alua, is giving you for an inheritance. So, in English, the King James Version can be difficult sometimes. In English, this is saying, if you marry a woman and for whatever reason she doesn't please you and you decide, I'm divorcing you, here's this writing of divorcement in your hand, get out of my house, go. So you put her out. And then she marries someone else, and that person either divorces her too or dies. You cannot remarry her. You can't remarry her. So, with regard to the northern kingdom, this happened to the northern kingdom. The Most High gave the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes, a writing of divorcement and said, get out of my house, get out of my kingdom, get out of my covenant. That's what happened. And so, in his eyes, and in the eyes of the southern kingdom, the northern kingdom became like Gentiles. That's how they saw them. That's how they treated them, because like, you're cut off. Okay. But in Messiah was able to regather the northern kingdom. Okay. He was able to, he came as the father, the father in the flesh, died, and then the northern kingdom was freed from that prior obligation. They were freed from that, okay? And then they were free to enter into a new covenant agreement with Messiah. Are there any questions about marriage before we move on to birthdays? I shared more than I wanted to share. I didn't mean to share the part about the Northern Kingdom, but I believe the Most High may have wanted it to come out because that's how we see the Most High using this marriage covenant to enter into a relationship with us. And it's just so wonderful. It's so wonderful. So if there aren't any questions about that, we're going to move into the discussion of birthdays because brothers and sisters, everything is pagan in this world in which we live. Everything. We're finding pagan origins for just about everything. I didn't know a divorced woman could remarry. Oh, my sultry sounds. Yeah, that's very interesting, isn't it? Well, in the scriptures, in the Torah, she did. You see? Yeah. So I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But according to Torah, we just read it. We just read it. We just read the scriptures. It says, if the husband puts her away and she marries another man, if he gives her writing of divorcement, that's a legal break. That's a legal break. So then she can marry again. She just can't remarry the same man that she was married to. Oh, good, Sister Sarah. Good. I'm glad that that made that clear to you of how they were gathered back in. And interestingly enough, it was always the Most High's intention to gather them back in. He scattered them to the nations because remember, the Most High is all about fruit. And so he knew the Gentiles existed, and he knew that eventually he was going to bring some of them into his kingdom because the strangers always existed with us. And so when he scattered them to the four winds and they became one with the Gentiles, he knew that when he gathered them, he would gather some extras as well to add into the kingdom.